Welcome to the Thinkly community for higher education and careers. This community connects students, professionals, and educators to help them learn, grow, and achieve their goals. Here, you'll find a wealth of resources and advice on topics such as career opportunities in various industries, choosing a major, building a profile, and admissions to global top universities. Thinkly is a platform that aims to provide great content and meaningful communities. Many business leaders, journalists, and coaches are the regular feature on this platform. And today we have one such personality with us. My name is Vijay Sonawane, and I am the host of Thinkly Community for Higher Education and Careers. I'm a higher education consultant, and I assist students in seeking admission into world's top 100 universities with scholarship. It is said that the world is watching and it's a time to showcase what we are made of. Epics, fables, fantasies, storytelling has been an intrinsic part of our way of life for ages. Over the years, the Indian media and entertainment industry has taken this legacy forward and evolved to create content that is now resonating globally. With various offerings across formats and genre, our content is taking a huge stride and finding its audience right from the remote corners of our country to various parts of the world. Currently, you'll be surprised to know that India is spending 82% of its time on mobile phone apps. Indians spent 1.9 billion plus hours on online sports. Digital advertisement grew 30% to reach $6.1 billion in 2022, and it is expected to reach $12.2 billion by 27-28. We are talking about a massive growth in this particular space. Today, we have with us someone who is watching this growth very closely. He's currently working with a global organization that believes in the philosophy of we exist to create and champion the exceptionals. Some of their elite brands are quite well known. You might have heard some of them, such as Vogue, Glamour, Traveler, GQ, etc. They operate in 32 markets worldwide with 37 very explicit brands and publish their content in 26 languages. Raunaq works as a national category head for Conde Nast India, and he leads the growth and monetization efforts in multiple categories. And he leads the growth and monetization effort in multiple categories for the group across Vogue, GQ, Conde Nast Traveler, and Architectural Digest. He's an electronics engineer and MBA with over 13 years of work experience in the media and consulting, in media consulting, digital advertising, and content monetization domains. Prior to Conde Nast India, he gained a rich experience with very well-known and famous organizations like Times of India, Disney, Hotstar, and Z5. He has also been a Toastmaster for the past 11 years and is currently serving as a district leader in District 98. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to present you Raunaq Raje. Good afternoon, Raunaq, and thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us.
Good afternoon, Vijay. It feels great to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me to today's session. And a warm good afternoon to everyone who is listening on this session today.
Right. So thank you. Thank you very much. We've been talking about this particular session since a very long time, but maybe
Absolutely.
because of your travel and occupation, okay, uh, we are here today and just would like to know more about media and what kind of career opportunities it offers to our audience. So let me ask you, or rather, let me start with a very common question, but it's a very inevitable question that what motivated you to join media industry? Because last 13 years you are in the media industry. So was it pre-decided, or was it just happened or because on the campus you got first assignment in media and hence you're continuing in media. Okay, so what is this all about?
Yeah, I think Vijay, it's I get this question asked a lot actually. Especially because if you look at my background, I'm an electronics engineer, and often say that my life has been a Brownian motion. It's been everywhere, and yet it's been somewhere. So I think yeah, so media for me was quite an accident, to be very honest. I trained to be an engineer, an electronics engineer at that. Then I joined Infosys, worked on it for 3 years. And I think in all those 3 years when I was working in Infosys, I always had this urge of doing something more. Like, how can I put myself out there? Because uh, I knew that I could do more, probably interacting with a lot of people. And I had no one from the media industry ever in my family, right? Like, all my family comes from the world of medical, from the engineering, so on and so forth. So I had never literally had a mentor in the family who came from this space. So, but it always intrigued me. So that's the reason I decided to do my MBA. I mastered in marketing, majored in marketing over there. And it so happened that, when I was doing my campus, for the first few days, we had mostly IT companies coming. And, because a lot of our skill sets actually were in tune with what they wanted. And I sat out on most of them because I thought, I would still try and wait for that one company that actually helps me pivot to something that I really want to do. And then there was a small startup called as Moge Media who came into our campus. I happened to give my interview, and the rest is history. So I think you can call it as an serendipity because it was never meant to be, but yeah, it's been a beautiful journey ever since. The start that was.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, last 13 years with such a short uh, time, you reached to, I mean, you joined a very global organization like, I mean, how you share your journey and key milestones, that has actually helped you to have this fast-paced success.
Right. So I think Vijay, one of the key things that things that keep happening in the path, and I think it's a lot to do with the kind of decisions that you make. Like like I said, had I stayed in IT, probably that was my comfort zone. So I think it's very important to step outside your comfort zone and see what else waits for you. So I think that first step, they say a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one small step. And I think that one small step of stepping outside my comfort zone into the media advertising domain, I think resulted into, this journey that was there. Apart from that, what I truly believe is that, you really need to identify the trends that are next for the future. And I'll be talking about it, through our conversation. I feel that while you're in 2023 or 2024, you have to start thinking of what's going to be very big in probably 27 or 28. And there are those trends that you clearly know that, it's like stock market. You know which stock to invest in right now, which is going to give you those returns probably in like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And I think your career is almost like a stock market. If you are able to identify those trends that are nascent right now, but are going to be very big in the future, that's going to pay dividends for you. And I think one such trend for me was, the introduction of OTT platforms. I think back in 2016, when in fact Disney Plus Hotstar was being launched, it was called only Hotstar back then. I was the first member to join the team, and a lot of people told me, "Arey, you know what? It's not TV, it's not digital either. It's like somewhere in between. No one is going to pay to watch. That's a Western phenomenon, so on and so forth." But then, I thought, it's something interesting, and I heard about OTT platforms in the West, like Hulu, Netflix. No, none of them were in India at that point of time. I mean, obviously YouTube was one of them, but it followed a very different model. And I think that's like one trend that I decided to invest in. And I think that was pandemic proof. In fact, it boomed during pandemic when
Yeah.
all other media platforms were going down. And I think that was one thing that led to, at least for me to piggyback on this particular phenomena and reach where I reach. So I think that's one of the key things is take the risk and identify trends for the future. And I think that will really help you move in the right direction.
Okay, fantastic. So, I mean, and now since you talked about, the kind of trend which you piggyback on, as we move forward, I mean, what do you see? Which are the emerging areas or emerging trends which one need to follow, or people in the media industry or the student who are in their MBA schools or maybe in their undergraduation program?
Right. So I think, Vijay, one thing that you said, during your opening, monologue, when you actually spoke about how media industry is changing, and it really stayed with me also. And I think something that is there for everyone to understand is that while media has this staggering numbers, of about $40 billion industry, so on and so forth, and digital almost turning into $8 to $9 billion industry, you have what's severely understood or understated is the influence it carries. Like, to even from an emerging trend standpoint, we have to understand that these trends are not local to a region. They're influencing your lives. The moment you get down from your bed, you take your mobile in hand, the first thing that you see till the last, probably the TV that you switch off, or maybe the paper that you close, or even the conversation that you have with someone, which is again influenced from media, your life is being influenced by media. So I think a career in media, I would say, is just an excellent way of influencing billions of people worldwide. I mean, I'm not talking about, few thousands or lakhs. You can actually influence, what you do today and what influencers are doing today is influencing and impacting lives of millions across the country. And I think these are the trends that we need to see. So, to name a few specifically, I think AI is the buzzword, right? Like, everyone is talking about AI, how it's going to change the game. We know all, like, how Microsoft changed the game by acquiring OpenAI, so on and so forth. I think AI definitely is one emerging trend. We don't know how it's going to pan out, but if we are able to piggyback on this trend the next 2 3 years, it's going to change. And it's making a lot of jobs obsolete. I mean, that's one of the things, but you also need to play smart and be friend of this AI rather than be scared of it and run away from it. So I think you need to really crack this game of AI. I think AI is one thing. The other piece is, I think, the thing that we are doing right now, I think video podcast, this space has really boomed into. I think that's where you will find all of these influencers being there, right? Today, all
Yeah.
you need is just a mobile phone to create content. And you don't need a setup. You don't need like some sort of an massive investment, like how the restaurant or hospitality industry does. All you need to do is just have a thought, a phone, and you can be a content creator. And that's what, if you look at a lot of these, like the biggest content creator in the world today, Mr. Beast, who has like millions of followers on YouTube, started off like, with a cell phone. Like, all of these guys just started off with a cell phone, and today they are these massive. So I think you need to be innovative. So I think AI is one thing. Video podcasting is a huge thing that, that you can think of right now. And I think third piece is sustainability. I think, that's one thing that even as media industry we are talking about. So and sustainability, I know it's like a loosely used word, but if you can be from a journalism angle, an agriculture journalist, or like someone who talks on sustainability, someone who is actively writing and creating content around sustainability, I think that's a trend that's going to stay there for a long time. So these are a few things that come to my top of the mind, because when I work, I see brands investing a lot in these things also, and I'm sure if brands are investing, it's going to be the thing for the future. So that's where I think these are a few emerging trends that one can start working in and maybe reap the benefits in a few years' time.
Okay, good. Thank you. So let me just, go slightly, back where we started. I think you work as a national content uh, director. So, what is the scope of your job? I mean, what exactly you do when you talk about monetization, when you talk about category head, what exactly you do? And you also work with Vogue and GQ and Traveler and all these magazines. So, what exactly you do? I mean, what is your
Right.
job role?
Right. So I think, I think the keyword over here is content. And what I essentially do is, and I mean, just to give a context to everyone over here, Conde Nast is basically a global publishing empire. It's a 104-year-old company which manages around 32 brands. So in the luxury space, if you have heard brands like Vogue or New Yorker or GQ or Vanity Fair, Glamour, Conde Nast Traveler, Architecture Digest, all of these, the Met Gala, the Oscars party, all of these are owned by Conde Nast globally. The Ironman Triathlon, which happens, all of these are different events and different publications that are owned by Conde Nast globally, which is headquartered out of New York. In India, we have four brands, which is Vogue, GQ, Vogue, which obviously is a fashion magazine as a product, but obviously it's much more than that. You have GQ, which is the men's lifestyle magazine. Again, much more to that. Condé Nast Traveler, which is into the travel space, and Architecture Digest, which is into the art and design, interiors, home space. So all of these four brands are thought leaders in their space, right? So when they influence, like I'm going back to what I said, every time you read something on either on print or on digital or in any form of content, you're being influenced to do that. And I think that's where I come into play. I work with a lot of brands, the likes of an Audi or Mercedes, Samsung, Apple, so on and so forth. And we co-create something that can influence a lot of people. So, maybe create an IP along with Vogue or along with GQ that can span across a print, video. Probably it can be a branded content which can have multiple episodes. It can just be probably one page ad onto the magazine. It can be an event. We created an event with like a Samsung, and we got bunch of influencers to create content on it. So it's so much more, like so that's the space that I am in. I lead revenue for these four brands, wherein I work with these advertisers and we co-create something that benefits both the brands that I work with as well as the platforms, the Vogue, GQ, Condé Nast Traveler, and AD. So that's essentially my job. So there's never a dull day, because one day you're talking to a car manufacturer and trying to identify what their next launch is and how you can create the next big drive. The next day I'm talking to an probably an alcohol company to understand what we can do with their products, etc. So it's always like, it's always in flux, it's always on the move, and that's how we monetize our brands and we create a revenue for the company.
Okay, very good. I mean, you're living in a very dynamic, and
Yes.
at the same time, I would say very volatile world. Okay,
Right.
right. And so, one of our viewer wants to know that what are the key skills that you employ, or you would rather advise people who are in the media or again wish to get into media need to look at and nurture.
Right. So I think from a skill set standpoint, I feel you don't require a massive degree to be in media. I think that's one key thing that I would like to say, and since many people are interested to know what a career in media looks like, unlike consulting or unlike finance, which are the barriers to entry is very high, right? It's a walled garden, as you say. Consulting, no one is going to give you entry till the time you show those big degrees or you show massive experience. Media, the barriers to entry is much lower. It's not a walled garden, it's in fact a public garden. That's how I would like to put it. You all you need to have is a inquisitiveness to understand more, because you need to ask questions. And I think one of the key skill set is networking, because it's rightly said, your network is your net worth. And I
Network.
think it's been repeated quite a bit. But if you are ready to be inquisitive, if you have a great communication skill, and it also depends upon which part of media you want to be in. So media, let's say, is broadly, if I have to categorize into main three or four pillars. So one obviously would be sales and marketing, which is wherein you are working with a publisher or with an agency and with brands, etc., wherein you're exchanging, you're communicating ideas. But it's also a lot to do with numbers. There is a lot of data analysis. So if you have a background in business analytics, you're great at number crunching. I think media today wants to understand numbers, because informed decisions can't be taken without numbers, right? So if that's a skill set that you have, like if you're great at numbers and you want to be into data analytics, I think that's a career that you can also choose in media. The third piece is about, if you have a great creative mind, like if you come from a creative bent of mindset, like let's say, as I said, you like to create content, be it textual, be it video, be it audio, like what we are doing right now. you can be a part of the media world too, right? You can think of create, like, what ideas would work, and then you can also have production capabilities attached to it. So you can work as a production designer, you can work as as someone who can produce content that is to be created. And finally, I would say, if you're great at managing people, stakeholder management, talent management, influencer management, I think that's also a space that you want. So from a skill set, I would say great communication, obviously, if that's something, creative bent of mind, inquisitiveness. If you like networking, this is a space for you to be. If you're good at numbers, you can come in on as an analytics. So I would say media is for all. I mean, there is no barrier to entry. You can just walk in, you can find what you want, and I'm sure you will find a way to grow in this industry that is there.
Okay. So you talked about, I have one more question, but before that, I would like to take this question that, how you mentioned about networking, right?
Right.
But if you actually look at it, our education system do not have any topic on networking. They don't teach you even in the MBA school, how you need to do a networking and everything. So what are your tips? Especially like someone from other industry wish to get into a media, right? So what advice first you would give them, and how they need to start, working on this networking? What kind of tips you would like to offer for effective networking?
Right, right. So I think, Vijay, the one of the key things for networking is basically a typical age-old adage in India, or rather the things that have been told to us. And I'll say this in Hindi, log kya kahenge? That's something that really kills your networking, because the reason I feel why networking is not big in India is because you're constantly thinking, is what if I say something wrong to a stranger or someone like I don't know? What will that person think about me? What will other people think of me? What will those poor people think of me? And I think that is what kills networking innately. Networking is not a skill that can be taught. As you rightly said, it's not spoken about too much in MBA. There's no lecture, there's no class on networking, right? It's more innate. It's like it goes back to inquisitiveness, etc. I think the first key role is like to go and, if you have something in mind, go and ask that question. I mean, don't be afraid to fail. Like, you will fail maybe two, three times, but the fourth time when you succeed, and I think this was taught to me by Toastmasters. When you, in my introduction, and we both belong to this community, so I'll just take a minute to speak on it. It's been almost over 11 years since I joined Toastmasters as a community. And I think in those 11 years, over a decade, I feel that Toastmasters really taught me how to share my innovations and say what I really want. And I think that's really helped me grow as an individual, grow as a professional, even in my personal life and in my professional life. Because it led me to communicate what I want through the right networking, building a right network. And that's how, in fact, in sales, if I can't prospect, if I can't network, I can't prospect. So I need to meet people, I need to create a web of network, and only then I can grow. So that's, I think, one of the key things is, do not have any sort of inhibitions. Be inquisitive. You want to know more, right? So go and ask people. If you are in a room of people who know more than you, do not shy away from asking questions. If you are in a room of then people who don't know, if you are the subject matter expert, share your knowledge as much as you can, and that is how your network will also grow. And I think one key thing, and I'm sure Vijay, you would appreciate that, you look at colleges like Harvard, any Ivy League college, the biggest network that they have is the alumni network. And
Mhm.
today, the way they work, which is completely absent in India, barring the few, colleges here and there, probably an IM or an ISP, we don't have an alumni network. We don't have that innate thing of helping our own alumni, and that is how in the Western countries it's always grown. And I think that's something that we need to cultivate at a young age, so that that becomes a quality, that becomes an innate quality for us when we grow, and it's not something that we need to acquire. That's my 2 cents on networking, actually.
Yeah, yeah. But then, like as you mentioned, Ronald, that we greatly lack that kind of an environment here in India. So I mean, with that constraint, okay, or with that limitations, how students, I mean, especially student or even I mean, people from other industry who wish to get into media industry need to start. What kind of opportunity they need to look at?
So I think as starting point, I would say that there are a lot of events that happen with respect to media, right? There are I mean, I keep seeing that there are obviously career fairs which wherein a lot of media professionals come together and talk about what they want, while I'm covering a lot of things in, like, in this short session. But then there would be people who would only talk about media sales. There would be people who would only, I would say, listen to them and hear and see if you find anything interesting as a takeaway. And because you need to also identify which space you want to be in, because you cannot always be everywhere. So obviously do figure that out. So maybe career fairs is a great starting point. Look at, and again, I go back to this networking. So networking events, networking can happen everywhere. Like, you can be in a family gathering, or you can be in anything apart from your professional life, and suddenly you encounter this person who does something in media. Ask questions, like, that's where I think a lot of information can be exchanged. You can get a lot of information about media. I think that will give you a good segue into understanding more. I would say join, clubs like Toastmasters or etc., which will help you meet a lot of like-minded people from various industries, especially in a community club, which will help you understand what goes beyond your own industry, beyond your own corporate, world, etc. I think that will help you gain ideas. And otherwise, you can always join forums which talk about media, so on and so forth. And I think that's where you will find people exchanging ideas, and you can pick one of that idea. So I think all of these are a good starting point, I would say. And then, of course, you can see how you can take it forward, but to see like which career in media interests you.
Okay, okay. So, Ronak, this is one question which has come from one of our viewer, and Neha. She's saying that given most of us are on a smartphone, how do you think traditional medias like radio, television can make the shift to digital? I think they are already in process, right?
Yeah, we are already in process. So actually, I think what happened is, so OTT essentially is mini television, right? It's I mean, that's how, when I'll give you an interesting anecdote. So 2017, when I joined Hotstar and we launched Hotstar, no one knew what OTT was, right? Like, so if you remember the first campaign of Hotstar, it was called Go Solo. Like, because till that time, television was used to be the major source of entertainment for most of us, like in a way.
Raunak, I would like to just stop you. I think we lost you for for few seconds. If you can just repeat, you
All
were
right.
talking about that main event of Hotstar. Yeah,
Right, right. So I'll just, I'm audible now? Is it fine?
yeah.
Right,
Perfect,
right.
perfect. Yeah.
So I said, I'll just give you an interesting anecdote about Hotstar. Like, back in 2017, when we first started selling Hotstar, when we went out in the market, people didn't know what OTT. So if I had to tell, I come from an OTT platform, streaming platform. So most of the brands were like, what's this? Like, we've heard of Netflix. We know about Hulu. We know that you guys are there. You're trying to do something, but what's in for me? So that's where we used to say the first campaign that Hotstar had was called Go Solo. That's where we used to tell people, you know what, today, when you're watching content on television, you have to be in front of your television at 9 p.m. to watch KBC. You cannot be anywhere else. You have to be in front of the
Television.
television. It's called appointment viewing, right? So that's a shift that happened in many people's mind. That is, oh my, I can catch the same KBC episode at any given point of time, at my leisure, and or any of my favorite daily soaps at my time. I can watch it when I'm traveling to my office. I can do. So it suddenly freed up so many things, and that was the advent of OTT also, like, and that's where I think the shift from TV to digital has become, like, or from print. I think every time earlier a newspaper were our holy grail. We, till the time you don't had a newspaper and when you open it, you don't know news. Today you can just, even Facebook is your source of news. So even social platforms are giving you news. Instagram, I get my news, more news from Instagram than from my newspaper, because influencers are talking about news, etc. So I think that's how the shift from mainline, which is basically TV, print, radio, to digital has become. And like, if you look at the numbers, the share of voice or the share of pie for digital is constantly growing. It's eating into, from an advertising revenue, from a subscription standpoint, it's eating into all of these mainline traditional platforms, and it's moving to digital. So I think that's even OTT. Today we have like 100 OTT platforms. Obviously, Geo is buying them all out. That's a separate story. But but I don't have a cable subscription at home today. I consume content from wherever I can, from my mobile or even from my smart TV with whatever apps are embedded on it. So I think that's a shift that we have seen over the last 5 years, and I think pandemic has helped because there was nothing on television during that 1 year, and I think even the super senior citizens suddenly realized कि अरे यहाँ तो मेरा कुछ है ही नहीं and I need to move, and I think everyone downloaded those apps and started viewing whatever they wanted. And I think that's where
Yeah.
that shift happened.
Correct, correct. That appointment viewing, as you said, that
Yeah,
it's a very nice term. So, I mean, in fact, I mean, earlier, even watch a web series, you have to wait for a 1 week to get that, next episode. So now, I mean, all my Saturdays, especially for me, the Saturday evenings are like all binge watching.
right,
Many times in
absolutely.
one go, I consume everything.
Right, right. In fact, people's new hobby is called binging. Like, that's something that has suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Like, what do I do? I'm a foodie and I'm a binger. It's like that. So, that suddenly become the new buzzword apparently. That's the thing.
Okay. So in the whole process again, so digital marketing, you also, because in the past you also worked on digital marketing space and everything. Can you just give us some good idea about digital marketing and how, yes, it is evolving space, but what are the career opportunities and what kind of various roles one can get into?
Right. So I think digital marketing broadly is covered into like three or four segments. So earlier, search used to be a massive part. If you've heard of careers in SEO, SEM, search, search optimization, so on and so forth. So search used to be, so when Google blossomed, right? When it boomed, obviously, search became like the biggest source of advertising revenue, digital advertising revenue in India. So there was search. Then, of course, there was social. So, which is your Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, X right now, and all of those things. And then the third piece was video content. So, your YouTube, everything that came from like advertising that came from OTT, YouTube, so on and so forth. So what happened was there was a good amount of like, and I'll show you the graph. So basically, search was dominating, then there was social, and then there was video, probably back in 2015, 2016. Then slowly the media money started moving from social to search. And I think then the third piece was video, where so now what has happened is video has taken over search and social entirely. So these are the three main things. So if you want to find a career in digital advertising, the careers are also in the same manner. So if you're looking at search is now a smaller pie, video is the biggest pie, and I would say social is about 30-35% of the entire thing. If you are looking at a career in search, it is those roles like SEO, SEM. You would need some digital certifications over there. You can go on Google and you can check out those certifications in this realm, and you can become one. You can be an SEO expert, and then you can join. There are a lot of agencies that offer search, and you can look at bigger agencies, smaller agencies, and tons of jobs in search. When it looks at come to social, I think again social is divided into three parts. One is content, the other is analyst, like from like a data standpoint, and third is from a managerial or like a influencer standpoint, for example. So content would be if you want to be a content creator in social, which obviously wherein you can create content, you can monetize it, you can join companies that create social content. You can be an analyst, so you can use data and you can drive trends for social. You can be a trend analyst or a trend expert in social. And the third piece is you can sell social, like if you can manage influencers, you can manage talent, you can be a salesperson for social, etc. And in video, like we've already spoken about, in content you can be in sales, you can create content, you can be in production, you can be in influencer management, so on and so forth. So these are the basic tenets under digital advertising and the roles that are available. And of course, you can dig deeper, and there are so many other roles that are there with the advent of new technologies that is there.
Okay, just to in continuation of that, like what are some of the like lesser known but very promising role or niche within the media industry that aspiring professionals should explore?
Yeah, so I think that's, again, I spoke about a few emerging technologies, and I think those are the niche roles. So I really like to, and because in my job, I keep meeting these newer, niche professionals also. I see a lot of people taking up for looking at journalism. Technically, agriculture journalism is has suddenly become big. The biggest thing that I feel like is niche, but it's impacting a lot of people is regional journalism. So if you are able to, because if you see YouTube, 90% of the consumption is Hindi and regional language. It's not English.
Yes.
So if you are
Yes.
able to, and this is where I'm telling you, a lot of viewers over here and even beyond have the biggest apprehension that I'm probably not great at English. So what? That's the opportunity that you have. You can be great at your language, you can be great at Hindi, you can be great at any language that you want. And that's the beauty. The money is at the bottom of pyramid, and that's where the entire heartland of India sits. If you're able to influence them, if you're able to create a career in them, maybe writing in a regional language, maybe creating content in a regional language, maybe selling platforms that are in a regional language. I think that's niche, but that's something that's less spoken about. But that's where there's a lot of gold that you can actually go for. Third, I would feel is again big data is entering into media in a big way, and media traditionally has not always been in hand in glove with numbers, right? Like you see creative people, they don't talk numbers, they talk about these wild ideas. But now I feel that big data is really reining this creativity in, and you can't move on that. So if you're great at numbers, and if you have probably a degree in analytics or something, you can also explore media, which wasn't the case earlier, but now you can. Like you see a lot of engineers, you see a lot of people from mathematical background also now in the media space that is there. So I think these are a few things. Podcast again is a great trend. AI is now catching up. So if you can do something, there are a lot of jobs available in media X AI. So maybe if those are the spaces that you can occupy even at a junior level, I'm sure in the next 3 to 4 years that's going to be super huge. That's going to be long.
And what about some technologies like UI, UX, VFX, etc.? How they can play a role in the media industry?
Right. So UI UX. So I'll talk about first VFX. I think visual graphics also is becoming a big thing, because AR VR is also a massive technology or a trend
Yes.
to watch for. Like if you obviously subset it, and graphics obviously play a big part in AR VR, because what has happened is today a lot of brands, and we have to think of media as which is influence from brands. Right today, if brands, or when I say brand, it's basically everyone around you. It can be the Tata, it can be Mahindra, it can be the Audis, Mercedes, Louis Vuittons and Chanel's of the world. Everyone is investing, and that's how media grows. The money comes from brand, and that's the reason I keep talking about brands. But everyone is wanting into, like today you can experience a store in New York through a VR technology. You don't really have to go to a Louis Vuitton store or a Michael Kors store in New York to. You can just put on your Oculus goggles, and you can actually. So these are the technologies that are going to be huge, and I think if you are a visual designer, and if you are ready to learn these technologies more, explore them, I think that's where, because social slowly is going away. I think the other technology that is truly increasing is social commerce. A lot of things are being bought on Instagram. Like you like a shoe, which Ranbir Kapoor is probably wearing, you click on it and you can actually buy it from a website. So if you can be a part of this social ecosystem, I think that's something that is there. From a UI UX standpoint, I think it's definitely massive. Like my wife is a user experience designer, and I see the application of UX that is there across all industries. I mean, in media, obviously, with social, you need, because media में जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. If that's the thing. So the more good you are, the better, the rather the more aesthetically you appeal to people. That's how you drive more clicks, sales, leads, impressions. So I think UI UX also has a massive salience when it comes to media. And definitely there are a lot of adjacencies with both visual graphics as well as UI UX in media.
Yeah. So you mean to say that there are plenty job opportunities are available for technical, non-technical people
Yes,
all put together.
yes, absolutely.
Right, right. And this you talked something very interesting about the journalism. You have sustainable journalism, you have agriculture journalism, you have medical journalism. Yeah, so this kind of interdisciplinary branches are also emerging
Right.
today. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. And you also introduce us to something called as emerging trend, which is social commerce. That you can buy whatever celebrity is wearing, there
Right,
itself. Wow.
right.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. Good. So, Ranak, since you are in such a very dynamic industry, what kind of any memorable challenge you handled, okay, or very ambitious project you handled? Okay, we would like to know, how you did that, how it has impacted you as an individual, made you
Right.
much better media person.
Right, right. Absolutely. I think, Vijay, challenges are probably the biggest teacher of them all, right? Like you can't learn anything from from like a mentor or teacher as much as a failure will teach you. And I think we have all had plenty of failures also because, I'm in sales, and a lot of times people think sales is very cool. You go out, you meet people, you're meeting this person, you're sitting with that person, you're thinking of ideas, but it's more frustrating than it's rewarding. And these are the frustrations that you meet so many people, you put in a lot of efforts, and sometimes the deals don't happen. And that's a fact of story, and a lot of people who are wanting to enter into sales, patience and perseverance, this is something that sales has taught me. And I think you really need to wait till the time you, because it is rewarding, absolutely, but success will not be met every single time. After 100 no's, probably you'll have one yes. It all depends upon the industry that you're in. It all depends upon the kind of product that you're selling. Obviously, I mean, there is no rule that, 100 yes will give you one no. But also at the same time, prospecting is very important. So I think patience and, perseverance is something that has been taught to me by my thing, because there's so many times when I meet a lot of brands, we have exciting thoughts. We start off with an idea, we start thinking, we start thinking we'll do this, that, and then due to commercial reasons, due to whatever reasons beyond our control, the idea might not happen. So I think that's something that is really helped me. I think the second piece, through this journey, I think the biggest challenge that I had was, initially I didn't have a mentor, right? As I said, I come from a family of engineers and doctors, so I never had like someone who could actually tell me about media professionals, etc. So I think to be curious and inquisitive, something that I spoke about a little bit earlier, I think that it taught me to ask questions to strangers, to people who I newly meet. And that's how I grew my network, and that's how I learned also. So I think that's a skill set that I truly learned. And I think the third piece, which I really feel, is because a lot of my projects there's no single project at a time, because there are like, probably there is one project that's going on, and there is the other one, and then there is third one. So two key skills that I learned from this: A is time management, on how to manage these two, three, because you need to deliver all of them on a particular date. You can't be leading and then leaning on the other. So I think that's something that I learned. And the biggest skill set that I've learned is stakeholder management, managing expectations. Today, people don't fail because they're not good at their job. They fail because they fail to manage expectations of their superiors or of their stakeholders. If you are able to manage expectations, if you are able to manage and have a great communication going with them, I think you will definitely succeed. And that's the biggest learning in this journey that I have been through these many years.
Would you like to share some of your best, I would say, sales deal which you cracked, which was very, very tough otherwise?
So I think a lot of them were tough, but one of the key interesting ones, and which we did recently, is we did a very cool thing. So basically, one of the alcohol brands in India now, because I handle alcohol as a category for the country, and it's a massive, massive, massive category. It's one of the only categories that is recession proof, that has got no highs and lows. It's always on a high for various reasons, like you so I think the and why I'm saying it's interesting is also it's legally bound, right? You can't show the product, you can't
Correct.
talk about alcohol in general. So what do you do? So we were brainstorming on how to make it a little cooler, etc. So one of the giants in the alcohol industry, Diageo, which is basically Johnny Walker, they wanted to talk about their product, but obviously we couldn't do. So what we did was they collaborated with us, and we created a sneaker, like a cool, sustainable sneaker that basically followed all the sustainable tenets of Johnny Walker and of Conde Nast also. And we onboarded a sneaker designer, and we built a complete sneaker, which was completely unheard of, which competed, like if you see the sneaker, it will compete the likes of an Adidas and a Nike. We created the sneakers and we created only 50 pairs of them, like bespoke sneakers, and we dropped it at Lollapalooza last year. So Lollapalooza is the biggest music festival that happens in the country, which just finished like about a week back. And last year at Lollapalooza, we dropped this, like, we launched these sneakers, we called influencers, did a big noise around it. And I think it was one such successful campaign. It was very cool. None of us are apparel designers, right? Diageo or Conde Nast are not in the business of making shoes or sneakers. But I think at that point of time, we came together to create something new. And this was thinking out of the box. So I think that was one of the projects that I worked on. And I think there have been so many projects like with Dove. We created a campaign when I was in Times of India with Grazia, wherein we spoke about inner beauty. Dove doesn't really talk about exterior beauty. So we had this host of influencers who spoke about how beauty is skin deep. Like, it's so much more than that. And I think that created a massive social impact among so many women in India. So I think these are like there's so many such and we don't have the time, but I can go on and on about so many such crazy campaigns that we did, and it's been truly an amazing journey also for me to work with this amazing brands.
It's very, very creative, very creative. I mean, those sneakers, so Johnny Walker talks about keep walking.
Right.
You just picked up on that, and
Yes.
created sticker. Very good, very good. So, I mean, as we are moving ahead, I think time is also clicking, and so you've been a great. I mean, you have given us a lot of insights about this industry. Just to conclude that, I mean, what kind of an advice would you like to give to our individuals or our audience who are aspiring to build a successful career in media industry? Your parting
Right,
advice.
right. So, Vijay, I think it's probably something that I've spoken in this thing. I think, as I said, media is not a walled garden. You don't require a massive degree or like something from a like. You just need belief in yourself. And I know it's almost like a cliche because everyone keeps talking about that, more so in media industry, because if you see a lot of top leaders in media industry today, they don't have fancy degrees on their wall, but they have someone who have believed in themselves, who have managed to you look at world in a different manner. And I think if you are able to do that, you should definitely go for that. You should look at institutes, in fact, who are very media friendly, and and I would like to just name a few. I think Mica is really great,
Yeah.
when it comes to India. There is Symbiosis, SIMC. These are the institutes that really help you with giving you the right skill set that will help you propel for an industry in media. I think you need to have work on your communication. Read a lot about media also, because media is about reading, and it's about just developing. And I think you have to be great at multi platform expertise, because gone are the days when you are only a journalist in like a print journalist, or today you can be a travel vlogger. You can be so try and apply your skills across multi platforms, and I think that is something that will really help you blossom as a media career. So again, in one line, I think media is for everyone, and you can, whatever your skill set may be, just dive in, and I'm sure you will be able to expand on that. Sorry, Vijay.
But at the same time, Ranak, media is a very glamorous industry, and common people have their own innovations. So how can one work on those innovations?
Yeah, so I think glamour. If you look at all of those glamour, and I met quite a few, they were all common people to start with, right? But they have all reached there. And if you sit with these people, also they are very very nice to talk with, and they are just like you. They also want to network. They also want to know you. So I think there is no class divide as per se. It's about in fact, it's just an extra networking opportunity for you to know them also. So even if you have inhibitions, maybe I come from a different world and this is a different world, it's not nearly like that. Because I'll give you again my example. Conde Nast is into the luxury space, right? I have never really worked in luxury space ever. This is the first time I'm working, when I joined Conde Nast. But I think it's great learning for me also when I'm here, and when I'm learning about all of these brands that is there. So I believe that if you are able to also have a conversation. I think it's about expanding your horizon also. There is nothing like glamour, non-glamour. I think all people are equal. Like if you just go and talk to them, they will talk the same way like you're talking to them. And I think it's just about putting yourself there. And I think one key thing that I would like to say, Vijay, before we end, is that make yourself into a personal brand. Work on things that will help people recognize you as yourself and not like a thing. And I keep talking about it. There are so many things. Learn, upskill, develop, add as many skills as you can, and make yourself into a personal brand. And that will definitely take you to the next level. So that's the only main advice that I would like to give is constantly upskill, get into this media industry and be like a brand. And I'm sure you will shine like one of the brightest stars out there.
Thank you, Raunaq. It was really, really helpful, and as I said, very insightful. And thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy person, but still, you took some time out and really, helped all of us to learn. Okay, and we are immensely thankful for you. So thank you
Thanks a
very
lot,
much.
Vijay. It was my pleasure being with you today. And I love, if you students take up media, I think it's just going to help our cause. I'm a crusader in that way. So thank you so much, Vijay, for giving me an opportunity also to interact with so
Yes,
many people
yes.
out there.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you,
Thank
Ronak.
you.
So, thank you, audience, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. It was a great pleasure talking to Ronak, and I hope as much I enjoyed this session, you all have, and you also got a lot of understanding. And I hope, as Ronak said, if some of you can join media industry and really add a value to people and make difference to brands and the world all put together, that will be a great cause. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll
Thank
meet
you.
next Saturday, same time around 12:30 with yet another interesting topic and with interesting personality. Till then, thank you. Goodbye and have a nice weekend.